Hello students, hope you all are fine. Today we are going to read Unit 8, The Lumber Room from Oxford Modern English Book 7. So we start our lesson. Students, the lumber room is a room where disused or bulky things are kept. Words to know. Aunt by assertion. The lady who called herself his aunt. Depravity, sinfulness, discernment, the ability to tell whether something is good or bad, to see clearly, forfeited, lost the right to do something, go to the seaside because of his crime, germinated, ground, goblin, mischievous, ugly demon, illumination, light, improvise, make up something quickly, in a tight corner, in a dangerous position, trapped, keep to heel, keep under control, obstinacy, obstinacy, stubbornness, overindulged in, enjoyed too much, partaken, eaten, taken a share in something, punitive, meant to inflict punishment, quaint, attractively old-fashioned, rigorously debarred, strictly not allowed to take part, sauntered, walked in a leisurely way, seemingly frivolous, apparently silly. Who ever heard of a frog in one's plate? Tactician, one who uses tactics, clever means, to great effect. Whence? From which place? Whence? From which place? Yield, give in. Now come to the reading. The children were to be driven as a special treat to the sands at Jagborough. Nicholas was not to be of the party. He was in disgrace. Only that morning he had refused to eat his bread and milk on the seemingly flawless ground that there was a frog in it. Older and wiser and better people had told him that there could not possibly be a frog in his bread and milk, and that he was not to talk nonsense. He continued, nevertheless, he talked what seemed to be nonsense and described with much detail the color and markings of the alleged frog. Alleged, said without proof. The dramatic part of the incident was that there really was a frog in Nicholas' basin of bread and milk. He had put it there himself, so he felt entitled to know something about it. The sin of taking a frog from the garden and putting it into a bowl of bread and milk was discussed at great length, but the fact that stood out clearest in the whole affair as it presented itself to the mind of Nicholas was that the older, wiser, and better people had been proved to be profoundly wrong. You said there couldn't possibly be a frog in my bread and milk. There was a frog in my bread and milk, he repeated, with the insistence of a skilled tactician who does not intend to shift from favorable ground. Insistence, demand, and tactician, clever means. So his boy cousin and girl cousin and his quite uninteresting younger brother were to be taken to Jagborough Sands that afternoon, and he was to stay at home. His cousin's aunt, who insisted in styling herself his aunt also, had hastily invented the Jagborough expedition in order to impress on Nicholas the delights that he had justly forfeited by his disgraceful conduct at the breakfast table. Delights here pleased greatly, and forfeited lost the right to do something. It was her habit, whenever one of the children fell from grace, to improvise. Improvise mean make up something quickly. Improvise something of a festival nature. Festival is a special day from which the offender would be rigorously debarred. Here, offender, a person who does something wrong, and rigorously is a hard, harsh way, and debarred is a ban. If all the children sinned collectively, they were suddenly informed of a circus in a neighboring town, a circus of unrivaled, unequaled merit, to which, but for their depravity, depravity here, moral corruption, they would have been taken that very day. A few decent tears were looked for on the part of Nicholas when the moment of the departure of the expedition arrived. Departure, leaving, expedition, journey or tour. As a matter of fact, however, all the crying was done by his girl cousin, who scraped her knee rather painfully against the step of the carriage as she was scrambling in. Scrapped, dragged, or pulled, and scrambling to climb or move quickly. How she did, how! Said Nicholas cheerfully as the party drove off without any of the high spirits that should have characterized it. Drove off to cause or force. She'll soon get over that, said the self-styled aunt. It will be a glorious afternoon, glorious, wonderful, for racing about over those beautiful sands. How they will enjoy themselves. Bobby won't enjoy himself much, and he won't race much either, said Nicholas with a grim chuckle. Grim, very serious, chuckle, laugh quietly. His boots are hurting him. They are too tight. Why didn't he tell me they were hurting? Asked the aunt. He told you twice, but you weren't listening. You often don't listen when we tell you important things. You are not to go into the gooseberry garden, said the aunt, changing the subject. Why not? Demanded Nicholas. Because you are in disgrace, said the aunt loftily. Loftily, something done in an arrogant manner. Nicholas felt perfectly capable of being in disgrace and in a gooseberry garden at the same moment. His face took on an expression of considerable obstinacy. Obstinacy? Here, stubbornness. It was clever to his aunt that he was determined to get into the gooseberry garden, only, as she remarked to herself, because I have told him he is not to. Now the gooseberry garden had two doors by which it might be entered, and once a small person like Nicholas could slip in there, he could disappear from view amid the masking growth of artichokes. Artichoke is a plant with a round mass of pointed parts, like leaves, raspberry cans, and fruit bushes. The aunt had many other things to do that afternoon, but she spent an hour or two in trivial gardening operations among flower beds and shrubberies. Once she could keep a watchful eye on the two doors that led to the forbidden paradise. She was a woman of few ideas with immense powers of concentration. Concentration, the ability to think carefully about something. Nicholas made one or two trips into the front garden, wriggling, twist and turn with quick movement, wriggling his way towards one or other of the doors, but never able for a moment to evade the aunt's watchful eye. Evade me, avoid giving a direct answer to. As a matter of fact, he had no intention of trying to get into the gooseberry garden, but it was extremely convenient for him that his aunt should believe that he had. It was a belief that would keep her on self imposed sentry duty for the greater part of the afternoon. Here, convenient is fitting in well with a person's need. Convenient. Having thoroughly confirmed and fortified her suspicions, Nicholas slipped back into the house and rapidly put into execution a plan of action that had long germinated in his brain. Germinated, began to grow. Execution means the carrying out of a plan, and germinated, begin to grow. By standing on a chair in the library, one could reach a shelf on which lay a fat, important looking key. The key was unimportant as it looked. It was the instrument which kept the mysteries of the lumber room secure, which opened a way only for aunts and such like privileged persons. The key turned stiffly in the lock, but it turned. The door opened, and Nicholas was in an unknown land compared with which the gooseberry garden was a stale delight. Stale, dry, and hard. Often and often Nicholas had pictured to himself what the lumber room might be like, that region that was so carefully sealed from youthful eyes and concerning which no questions were ever answered. It came up to his expectations. In the first place, it was large and dimly with a faint light, not brightly. One high window opening onto the forbidden garden being its only source of illumination. Illumination here, lightning or light. In the second place, it was a storehouse of unimagined treasures. The aunt, by assertion, was one of those people who think that things spoil by use and consign them to dust and damp by way of preserving them. The house was rather bare and cheerless, but here there were wonderful things for the eye to feast on. First and foremost, there was a piece of framed tapestry. Tapestry is a piece of thick textile fabric with picture or design formed by weaving colored. That was evidently meant to be a fire screen. To Nicholas, it was a living, breathing story. He sat down on a roll of Indian hangings. Hangings? A decorative piece of fabric or curtain hung on the walls of a room or of a bed. Hangings glowing in wonderful colors beneath a layer of dust and took in all the details of the tapestry picture. A man dressed in the hunting costume of some remote period had just shot a stag with an arrow. It could not have been a difficult shot because the stag was only 1 or 2 paces away from him. In the thickly growing vegetation that the picture suggested, it would not have been difficult to creep up to a feeding stag. And 2 spotted dogs that were jumping suddenly to join in the chase had evidently been trained to keep to heel till the arrow was discharged. That part of the picture was simple, if interesting, but did the huntsman see what Nicholas saw? That 4 galloping wolves were coming in his direction through the wood, galloping of a horse to run fast, and so that it could run quickly. There might be more than 4 of them hidden behind the trees, and in any case, would the man and his dogs be able to cope with the 4 wolves if they made an attack? The man had only 2 arrows left in his quiver, tremble or shake, and he might miss with one or both of them. All one knew about his skill in shooting was that he could hit a large stag at a ridiculously short range. Ridiculously is in a silly way. Nicholas sat for many golden minutes revolving the possibilities of the scene. He was inclined to think that the man and his dogs were in a tight corner. But there were other objects of delight and interest claiming his instant attention. There were quaint, twisted candlesticks in the shape of snakes and a teapot fashioned like a china duck. How dull and shapeless the nursery teapot seemed in comparison. And there was a carved sandal wood box packed tight with aromatic cotton wool. Aromatic, having a pleasant and distinctive smell, and between the layers of cotton wool were little brass figures, hump-necked bulls and peacocks and goblins delightful to see and to handle. Less promising in appearance was a large square book with plain black covers. Nicholas peeped in it, and behold, it was full of colored pictures of birds, and such birds in the garden and in the lanes. When he went for a walk, Nicholas came across a few birds, of which the largest were an occasional magpie or wood pigeon. Here were herons and bustards, kites, toucans, ibises, golden pheasants, a whole portrait gallery of undreamed of creatures. Here, herons is a large bird with long legs, a long neck, and grey or white feathers that lives near water. And bustards, a large, heavily built, swift-running bird found in open country in the Old World. Toucans, a tropical American fruit-eating bird with a massive bill and typically brightly colored plumage. Ibises is also a wandering bird. And pheasant a large long-tailed game bird native to Asia. And as he was admiring the coloring of the mandarin duck and assigning a life history to it, the voice of his aunt shouting his name came from the gooseberry garden outside. She had grown suspicious at his long disappearance and had leapt to the conclusion that he had climbed over the wall. She was now engaged in energetic and rather hopeless search for him among the artichokes and raspberry canes. Nicholas, Nicholas, she screamed, you are to come out of this at once. It's no use trying to hide there. I can see you all the time. It was probably the first time for 20 years that anyone had smiled in that lumber room. Presently, the angry repetitions of Nicholas's name gave way to a shriek and a cry for somebody to come quickly. Nicholas shut the book, restored it carefully to its place in a corner, and shook some dust from a neighboring pile of newspapers over it. Then he crept from the room, locked the door, and replaced the key exactly where he had found it. His aunt was still calling his name when he sauntered into the front garden. Sauntered walked in a slow, relaxed manner. Who is calling? He asked. Me, came the answer from the other side of the wall. Didn't you hear me? I have been looking for you in the gooseberry garden and I have slipped into the rainwater tank. Luckily, there is no water in it, but the sides are slippery and I can't get out. Fetch the little ladder from under the cherry tree. I was told I wasn't to go into the gooseberry garden, said Nicholas promptly. I told you not to, and now I tell you that you may, came the voice from the rainwater tank rather impatiently. Your voice doesn't sound like Aunt's, objected Nicholas. You may be the evil one tempting me to be disobedient. Aunt often tells me that the evil one tempts me and that I always yield, provide, or produce. This time I'm not going to yield. Don't talk nonsense, said the prisoner in the tank. Go and fetch the ladder. Will there be strawberry jam for tea? Asked Nicholas innocently. Certainly there will be, certainly, surely, said the aunt, privately resolving that Nicholas should have none of it. Now I know that you are the evil one and not aunt, shouted Nicholas gleefully, happily, and with excitement or pleasure. When we asked Aunt for strawberry jam yesterday, she said there wasn't any. I know there are 4 jars of it in the store cupboard because I looked, and of course you know it's there, but she doesn't because she said there wasn't any. Oh, devil, you have sold yourself? There was an unusual sense of luxury in being able to talk to an aunt as though one were talking to the evil one. But Nicholas knew with childish discernment, the ability of judge well, that such luxuries were not to be overindulged in. He walked noisily away, and it was the kitchen maid in search of parsley. Parsley is a type of herb who eventually rescued the ant from the rainwater tank. The tide had been at its highest when the children had arrived at Jagborough Cove, so there had been no sand to play on, a circumstance that the aunt had overlooked in the haste of organizing her punitive expedition. The tightness of Bobby's boots had had disastrous effect on his temper, disastrous, causing great danger. The whole of the afternoon, and altogether the children could not have been said to have enjoyed themselves. The aunt maintained the frozen muteness of one who has suffered undignified and unmerited detention in a rainwater tank for 35 minutes. Detention, the condition of being held or delayed. As for Nicholas, he too was silent in the absorption, the process by which one thing absorbs or absorbed by another. Who has much to think about? It was just possible. He considered that the huntsman would escape with his hounds while the wolves feasted on the stricken stag. Feasted, a feast is a huge, delicious meal that is served at a party or celebration. Now come to the exercises. A. Comprehension. Answer the following questions. A. Why did the aunt decide to send the children to Jagborough? Why was Nicholas not included in the party? Answer. The aunt decided to send the children to Jagborough to punish Nicholas. Nicholas was not included in the party because he had put a frog in his breakfast, bread and milk. B. What was the aunt in the habit of doing when any one of the children fell from grace? Answer. When any one of the children fell from grace, the aunt was in the habit of organizing and treat for the other children. See, what did the aunt do when all the children had done something wrong? Answer. When all the children had done something wrong, the aunt would tell them of a wonderful circus in the area, to which, of course, she would not be taking them as they had misbehaved. D. How did Nicholas did get the better of his aunt when the other children set off on the expedition? Answer. Nicholas got the better of his aunt when the other children set off on their expedition by not showing any disappointment. He was cheerful, his girl cousin was crying, and his brother's boots were too tight. E. What did the aunt think to herself when he saw the look of obstinacy on Nicholas' face after she had said he must not enter the gooseberry garden? The aunt thought to herself that Nicholas was determined to get into the gooseberry garden because she had told him not to. She expected he would enter the garden. F. Why did Nicholas make many trips into the front garden? Why did the aunt spend so much time in the garden although she had other work to do? Answer. Nicholas made many trips into the front garden to make his aunt believe he wanted to get into the gooseberry garden. The aunt spent so much time in the garden because she did not want Nicholas to get past her and into the gooseberry garden. G. How did Nicholas spend his time in the lumber room? Answer. Nicholas spent his time in the lumber room gazing at all the lumber and waving stories around the tapestry. This question is more difficult. Discuss it first. 8. Nicholas is involved in a number of incidents and conversations. Give examples to show the following. 1. His intelligence. His intelligence seeing through his aunt's attempt to make him feel like he is missing out. 2. His creativity, coming up with a plan to distract his aunt. creating a story out of his pictures on the tapestry. 3. His imagination. Putting a frog in his bread and milk, imagining events on the tapestry. 4. His dislike of authority. Proving the older, wiser, better people wrong. Telling his aunt that Bobby had told her twice about his boots. 2. Answer the following with the reference to context. A. The dramatic part of the incident was that there really was a frog in Nicholas' basin of bread and milk. 1. When did the incident take place? Answer. That morning at the breakfast table. 2. What were the other parts of the incident? Answer. Nicholas had refused to eat his bread and milk on the seemingly frivolous ground that there was a frog in it. His aunt had told him that he was not to talk nonsense. He continued to describe the color and markings of the alleged frog. 3. What was the result of the incident? Answer. Nicholas' sin was discussed at great length. Then his cousins and his brother were taken to Jagborough Sands, but he had to stay at home. 4. Did everyone believe that Nicholas was telling the truth? Answer. Only Nicholas believed he was telling the truth. He knew it was true because he had put the frog in the bowl himself. B. He told you twice, but you weren't listening. 1. Who is speaking and to whom? Answer. Nicholas is speaking to his aunt. Aunt. 2. What, according to the speaker, had been told twice? Answer. That Bobby's boots were hurting him because they were too tight. 3. What did the listener do immediately after hearing this statement? Why? Answer. She changed the subject because she could not admit that she had been wrong. She had not listened to Bobby and she was now not prepared to listen to Nicholas telling her that she often did not listen to important things. B. Working with words. 1. Use the following words and expressions in sentences of your own. A. Disgraceful conduct. Sentence. You will be account for your disgraceful conduct. B. With the insistence of. Sentence. With the insistence of my parents, I joined the coaching center for training. C. Obstinacy. Sentence. His obstinacy is irritating for me sometimes. D. Put into execution. After a lot of struggle, the plan was finally put into execution. E. Rigorously. Sentence. The government is punishing traffic law violators more rigorously. F. Disastrous effect. Sentence. Too much exercise and dieting can have a disastrous effect on body and brain. G. Forfeited. Sentence. He forfeited his winnings because he broke the rules of game. H. No intention of. Sentence. I had no intention of hurting you. 2. Rewrite the sentences using words from the story in place of the words in italics. A backslash indicates that you have to find two separate synonyms for words on either side of the backslash. A. His cousin's father's sister, who persisted in calling herself his aunt, also had speedily made up the Jack Bro trip in order to drum into Nicholas the players that he had rightly surrendered by his shamefully behavior at the breakfast table. The sentence will be like this. His cousin's aunt, who insisted in styling herself his aunt, also had hastily invented the Jack Bro expedition in order to impress on Nicholas the delights that he had justly forfeited by his disgraceful conduct at the breakfast table. B. Having totally verified and reinforced her doubts, Nicholas stole back into the residence and speedily implemented a strategy that had long taken root in his brain. The sentence will be like this. Having thoroughly confirmed and forfeited her suspicions, Nicholas slipped back into the house and rapidly put into execution a plan of action that had long germinated in his brain. See, learning about language, abstract nouns. An abstract noun is the name of a quality, a feeling, or a state. Here are some examples: cleverness, length, honesty, patience, cruelty, laughter. 1. Find at least 10 abstract nouns in the story. So the abstract nouns are disgrace, grace, growth, player, expectation, possibilities, silence, circumstances, detention, tightness. 2. In each of the following phrases, there is an abstract noun. Substitute an adjective for each noun, rewriting each phrase as in the example below. Example: the boy's imagination, an imaginative boy. A. The child's happiness, the happy child. B. The king's pride, the proud king. C. The patient's patience, the patient. D. The customer's rudeness, the rude customer. E. The doctor's patience, the patient doctor. F. The priest's holiness, the holy priest. G. The story's length, the long story. H. The mountain's height, the high mountain. Do you remember reading about adjective phrases? Rewrite the following, replacing the adjective phrases with adjectives of similar meaning. A. The horse with the injury did not run in the race. The injured horse did not run in the race. B. The boy with the dark hair is my cousin. The dark-haired boy is my cousin. C. They felt pity for the man without any money. They felt pity for the penniless or poor man. D. His explanation was out of the ordinary. It did not help us at all. His extraordinary explanation did not help us at all. E. The cave under the water was full of coral of great beauty. The underwater cave was full of beautiful coral. Thanks for listening. For new videos, don't forget to subscribe my channel. And if you like my videos, please share and like.